Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Football Pundits. Today, we're going to be talking about my favorite topic, which is Arsenal and the predicament that is Arsenal Football Club. Joining us today, we've got Ronak Kapoor. I'm sure all you cricket enthusiasts out there, you know him. I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans probably also know him. And generally, he's one of the biggest Arsenal fans that we have in the country. He's supported them through all kinds of, through thick and through. And he's here with us today. He's also my brother. So this is a nepotized segment to a large extent. And
Yes.
and we're keen to pick his thoughts. So Ron, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you
Thanks.
after so many requests.
Oh,
And
what's the request? This is the second request. Stop making me sound worse than I am.
I
This
am
is the second time
glad.
you asked me.
I am
And
glad.
the
Ron,
last time you asked me, you gave me 20 minutes of notice. So, yeah. So just putting it out there. Don't make me sound bad. I'm always there for you guys.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, Ron, today we're going to be talking about last night's result, the North London derby game between Spurs and Arsenal that Arsenal lost 2-1. And after that, we'll have a larger conversation around the general Arsenal narrative, which is what has been a woeful 10, 15 years now, and what does the future look like? So, Ron, launch straight into it. What were your thoughts on last night's game?
At the outset, I must say, Abhi, that I felt like Spurs have this unfair advantage over every other Premier League club at the moment because the atmosphere in their stadium last night was pretty much the same as it was when their stadiums were packed, right? So they're just used to playing with this extraordinary personality that an empty stadium gives them. So they hold this advantage over other clubs who are still trying to come to terms with playing behind closed doors. So that was one thing I'd like to get out of the way. As far as the game itself goes, I don't think the obvious needs to be stated, but it was pretty much everything about Arsenal that's good and bad has been summed up in the last couple of weeks, right?
Yep.
You saw them come back sloppily after the lockdown. You then saw them pick up the pieces and actually string a couple of decent performances together. Maybe even come up with a win that people didn't expect them to at Wolves.
Yep.
Defend all right, put clean sheets together, and just when the conversation went to, oh, can Arsenal suddenly make a genuine case for Europe, it just falls apart. And why does it fall apart? It's the same bunch of players that look good. It's the same hope that they bring up, and then bad habits just come back, right? And bad habits can come in the form of any player. I'm not going to go all batshit crazy on David Luiz because, to be fair, the same David Luiz who has us tearing our hair apart has also been part of these moments of bringing the club back together and actually stringing performances together. It's just that the mistakes are so frustrating, right? So we saw that in the North London derby as well. It wasn't. I'll put it out there. Quite a few people are going after David Luiz. I don't think the equalizer was his fault at all. But it's a classic Arsenal being sucked back into their bad habits and then just feeling like all that hard work we put in is just gone. It's up in the air. Concentration levels drop. You get insecure mentally. You're obviously up against a master tactician, and you end up conceding a sloppy second goal and game done. So I feel for these players. I genuinely do because they're not good enough, right? I have changed my expectations from Arsenal significantly over the Wenger years towards the end to the time we had with Emery and with Arteta. Now we'll discuss that by and large. But the reason I'm not going crazy about this result is because it's not right to expect this team to be clinical, right? I mean, wouldn't we be more surprised if Arsenal would have strung through 6 games undefeated or beaten Leicester and Tottenham on the bounce, and then we'd go like, what the hell's going on? This is not unexpected. So why are we making this about, let's see what the Arsenal fans have to say about this? This is exactly what we expect. What we need to change is the expectations of the players, which will change when we change the players. And we've had enough evidence to see who fits into the system, who doesn't. That having been said, this will extend to a larger conversation, which I'm sure we'll get into, is that Mikel Arteta seems to have ticked just about every box, right? And I think in the limited time that he has been here, including in that defeat against Tottenham, there were significant moments of hope. I think Arsenal played the better football. They played the more aggressive. They tried to play the more aggressive, creative style of football. They certainly, I think, played better than Tottenham for a large part of the game. But they didn't come back with a result. Now, that template you can copy-paste and use for N number of Arsenal games in the last 5, 10, 15 years. I get it. But this is a manager who's just come in. You guys would know what a full season can do, right? To a manager with promise and potential, a manager who feels for the club, a manager who has had this taste of winning, which Solskjaer did as a player, which Lampard did as a player, and which Arteta maybe hasn't done as a player, but certainly has in his short managerial career with Pep. So you know that this guy he's got the ingredients. He needs to be given a full season, and that's where I'll stop it for now. That this is now a continuing trend of Arteta needing to realize that what his squad can deliver and what it can't. And I'm happy that he gets enough shit like this. Sorry if I may. Like he sees stupid shit at Arsenal because then he's not convinced that, oh, this is a team that I can actually make wonders happen without having to spend, which is what Wenger was obsessed with for the last 7-8 years. He became this beacon of the club that had to manage the club more than he had to manage football. And therefore he said, it's okay, don't give me big players, don't give me big money. I'm not even going to fight for it, even though I may not get it. Whatever the story was there, I'll find a way to make this club deliver or get into Europe with limited resources. And that's something that has to change. And I'm hoping a new manager needs to see enough fall apart around him for that to change.
I'm actually going to just jump on here because while Ronak was talking about the specific North London derby, there was one tweet I saw yesterday which I think summed the game up. Jose Mourinho with another masterclass. Just let Tottenham sit back and let Arsenal defeat Arsenal.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. It wasn't even a smashing grab. It was he just sat back and let Arsenal do what they do to themselves. But I mean, looking at the larger picture, Ron, yes, you already touched upon the whole how Ole and United fans are seeing the benefits of sticking with a manager through a season. You know, a manager who gets the club and all of that. But you also touched upon the fact that Wenger was a person who realized that, okay, you know what, I'm not going to get the money. Let me just work with limited resources. So the place I am seeing the difference here is where Ole with a United board might still have got, you know what, there's still 75 million for your Maguires, for your Brunos, you know, all that money. Do you see Arteta getting that sort of backing that he needs to get Arsenal into top 4?
Good question. Because before you answer that, Ron, I'll add to Kern's question, which is in all the rant and whatever you just said before this, I didn't hear any mention of Stan Kroenke. I didn't hear any mention of the board. So is there no anger towards them? Because largely Arsenal fans seem to be directing a lot of their anger at the board as well.
You know, the thing is that Arsenal fans are so deprived of hope that whatever comes their, whatever little light comes their way, they cling on to genuinely with this sense of belief, right? So at the start of this season with Emery, we thought we'd done the best business we'd ever done, including in all the years of where we're like, wow, we've got Raul and we've got Edu and we've got these guys who have just let Emery do the football and they'll take care of this. And we managed to get Pepe and we managed to, and David Luiz at the time, a deadline day transfer, was sold as this outrageous Hail Mary. Like, look at this. And that is something we all latched upon, right? Now, even you guys might have said, oh, good, take David Luiz. But you actually thought, you know what? Given the choice, why not take an experienced Premier League defender, right? Not a bad signing. Our idea was that David Luiz at that time would be your 4th, 5th defender who would come in, you know, when your first few get in. Nobody expected him to be main centre half right through the season, playing every game and messing up every other game. So the problem is that how can you hold it against the owners when you endorse their business less than 12 months back? You endorse the candidate that they put in. So why would you hold it against the owners? I didn't see a big hue and cry when we said, oh, we've got Pepe, what the hell, you know, we need someone else. Then what? Then things go crazy, right? So as far as the ownership situation goes, I think I don't think Arsenal fans have as much of an issue with the owners, and I say that at the risk of perhaps being hit back by a lot of people who say no, the Kroenkes have ruined us and whatnot. But there is we haven't reached that point where there will be a massive coup against the ownership, either from the fans or from other members on the board. And also, it actually reached a point of you're not going to achieve any change by that. It's not like the Kroenkes are on thin ground at Arsenal. And the other thing is they have invested in a manager now that you are okay with. So how much investment they gave Arteta? Yes, that's a big question. But I think the first problem Arsenal need to do is identify their own squad and restructure their own assets. Now, they have already decided indications are that they will do away with Mesut Ozil. It makes no sense to keep him on with this sort of relationship that he's got. Similar things are being said about even Guendouzi. So it's not about a player who's been around too long. It's about a player who Arteta believes in, who Arteta wants to spend on. He's put in a different set of priorities. I think right now, if you ask an Arsenal fan, would you rather have Kroenke invest big and get somebody big, or would you rather have him find a way to keep Aubameyang? I think he'd go for the latter, right? Any new player that comes in, including Pepe, for big money, there's no guarantee that he's going to take off the way that you expect him to right away. And with Arsenal's current precarious position of not being in Champions League, I don't see any player of that sort of top tier elite actually wanting to come to the club. So why do players move clubs? They move for top competition, or they move for managers they believe they want to play with. Arteta needs time to probably generate that impression, to get players to want to play for him. And I think a full season or two would have make that happen without the resource spending that has happened. We did spend on players, but we haven't quite seen the return. And that is the toughest market to crack, right? I mean, we're not going to be spending the kind of money that Man City perhaps do or Man United do. And Arsenal are okay with that. I mean, I think they've realized that then, actually now I should change that. We should be spending everything because nothing is going to come back to bite you, like Manchester City have now figured out. So you should sell everything, literally, and just do whatever the hell you want. It shouldn't be a problem. Anyway, sorry, to come back to it. So I think there is nobody likes the owners, but there is most fans tend to differentiate ownership with management. And some ways I think what we've seen with Arteta is let's give him 3 transfer windows, right? Let's put it that way. We thought Emery did great business, or Arsenal did great business last summer. So I would hold on and see. Would that money come or no? I don't know. Would that money be available if somebody like Aubameyang leaves? And then are you going to be happy that you had 120 million to sell or to spend? I don't know, right? So it's a tough one to be in right now. What I would say is that there is a lot more optimism in me since Arteta has come in from the very first day that he came in. It's not the same optimism I felt with Emery at the time. It's also not the same, and there's no question that there needed to be something other than Wenger. And Arteta, for me, strikes me as someone who's other than Wenger for this. But identifying this team, identifying its squad, is going to take a little time. And I'm happy for him to go.
Right? You mentioned the squad and you mentioned the players, and you said, you'd rather stick on to Aubameyang, not make those big signings. So I have 2 questions for you, right? Firstly, is it time that Arsenal fans expect a different kind of football from their team, because it's easier to adjust to the standard of the players, make them play football in a certain way, grind out those results and get to a winning way, than to expect to have them all play one-touch football, lose the ball in the back, make a mess of themselves and fool of themselves, when they're not ideally the kind of players suitable for that kind of football anymore. We've seen it. Ideally, they slip. Mustafi slips in the box with that one-touch passing, try to play it on the back. He's clearly not the player for that, but he's a good defender. We've seen that. So is it okay then that you mentioned yourself, get those kind of players who will be maybe not those big budget spends, but who play differently, but a different style of football? And secondly, isn't it better if you don't play Europa League and you stay out of Europe completely, get a squad going, get results going in the Premier League, become a good force, getting results, building momentum, and getting in players that way?
All right. So to answer the first question, I think the first bit that you said is essentially the definition of good management, right? A manager who can get players to play a certain type of football when you never expected that from their skill set. And that is the mastery of great managers wherever they came from. They found players to play a certain way that you didn't think that they were potentially possible of. And that's where you talk about, look at how this player played under this manager and look at what a transformation it was. And you've seen that with Arteta already. He's given us a completely different identity to Granit Xhaka. He's given us a different identity to Mustafi, who we only saw as the subject of ridicule. I mean, Xhaka was a player that perhaps should never have played for Arsenal again with the way he fell out mid-season. And he's transformed into a completely different player right now. We don't even talk about him as this crazy, hot-headed, liability in midfield who's just waiting to get sent off. He's now got a different role entirely. So that's good management, to look at your squad and see there is something that can be put to use here. All I need to do is find out what that is. And Emery struggled with that, and Arteta seems to have got more boxes ticked on that front. So I'm okay with Arteta finding the philosophy. I think it's a culture shock for him, right? He's seen Pep do this with the squad that Man City has, and now he's like, all right, let's take that and move. Forget Arteta. If Pep comes to Arsenal, Pep will face the same thing, right? So I'd love to see what Pep does with this squad. It would have been a great, hypothesis to see. Pep, you have the exact same players. Now let's see what you do with them, and of course,
he'll never take it.
And if I'm in current day football, no one polarizes more than Pep Guardiola, right? People wonder whether Pep was the great manager or whether he was just part of great teams. And I think with time, I'm one of those who said he's a great manager. Period. Simple, right? But I can see why people still aren't willing to believe it, because look at the teams Pep has at his disposal. So it's the same thing that I would have loved to see. But anyway, to come back to it, I think Arteta is still trying to figure out what's the ideal brand of football that this Arsenal team can play. And I also think the first thing he needs to figure out is who he wants in this team at all. He's identifying his squad. He's figuring out where there is a role for. He's not afraid to drop Lacazette. He's not afraid to move big players out, not having trained with them. He's quite straightforward, with what he wants from this team. But he can't be judged on the basis of coming in December and now with an unprecedented break and coming back. So I'd have very little say in criticism of Arteta. What I would like to see is what he does with this team when they start a fresh season. Who are his 11s? And I thought Rob Holding is the future of Arsenal. All of a sudden, he is defender number 4. When he's fit, he's not getting a game. It's like, oh my God, play him now. He's going to get injured any minute. You might as well play him. And therefore, I get frustrated that Emery used to play Aubameyang on the left and suddenly Arteta comes and does the same thing. So you just wonder, maybe this is not all, Arteta's going to come in now and do everything right. So a manager takes time to figure these things out, and I would wait to see what he does with this squad going forward. To come back to the second question, what was it again? Sorry, I had an answer ready.
Isn't it better for Arsenal to not be in Europe at all? Isn't it a blessing?
So the only thing with that is, I think there's a belief, at least amongst fans. I don't know if it resonates amongst players and managers. The easier way to get into Europe is actually by winning the Europa League, and therefore, I actually felt like if you look at the way the Premier League's building up, and it's not showing signs of relenting, right? We all know what City and Liverpool are like. They're going to have pretty much the same squad. Chelsea are hungry. They are going to spend. You get the impression.
More money.
United have momentum. Yeah, United have momentum, and you think would be an improved club in 6 months' time, 3 months' time.
Yeah.
You still can't discard Leicester in their first 11. And now you've got, and who's to remove Jose from the equation ever? So what's the easier way to get into Europe? Play
Europa
and work to make the top 4 with that, or actually play Thursday night football with tier 2, tier 3, and find a way to beat them. And for me, Europa
like-minded clubs.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the testament of the quality of the Premier League more it does about Arsenal or United settling for easier ways to get it. Once you get it, the equation changes completely. Your signings change completely. Your transfer strategy changes completely. Your monies change completely. So it's not about the way to get in. It's about what works best for the club. So I think the Europa League is an important tournament, and I used to get frustrated with Wenger when he never played his best team in the Europa League. He was probably one of those that was so stuck up in his elite past that he wanted to get into Europe that way, right? Win the top 4. The Europa League wasn't a big deal for him. And maybe the philosophy was, it's such a narrow route. I mean, you can't put your hopes on winning one tournament. You could get knocked out on a bad day and that's it. It's over. So I can't say that, my way of getting to the Champions League now is winning the Europa League. That doesn't work. But we've seen it, right? The draws that you get in Europe, the importance you give the Europa League, that in itself is going to decide how you do well in it. And Wenger never did that. Emery actually valued the Europa League very much because he came from that completely different school. For him, that was the only
3-time winner.
He knows how to win. That's the tournament he knows how to win. So I want to win the Europa League. So I guess that's the thing. So I don't discount the importance of the Europa League. I know a lot of people do, including Indian fans and football fans do, but I think it's an important competition.
I was following Chelsea's path when Jose got sacked and they finished outside. It helped them actually restructure the whole squad, focus on the competition domestically, and come in that way, right? Because if you win your FA Cup and your Carling Cup and you're focusing just on the league, you win one of those cups on the Europa League anyway. So in the Europa next year, in case you miss out on the top 4 because it's competitive, with Arteta, you and I both know needs 2 years at least to fix this around. So why don't you enter that way?
Sorry, who did Chelsea replace with Jose? Just bring me back.
When Conte got sacked.
Conte.
Yeah.
So okay, no, and so there again, you've got a manager with far greater pedigree when you decided to pursue the Premier League and restructure the squad, and I think funds that were far more, the funds that were there for him. Arteta may not have that, but anyway, sorry, to come back to all of it, I would much rather see Arsenal play the Europa League. I don't know if that's going to happen now, but I would much rather see Arsenal play the Europa League and have 2 options of actually keeping your chances to Champions League qualification open. But if they are without the Europa League next year, I agree with you. I guess then in that case, you might have a limited squad, which might be better off pursuing one simple focus path.
Be the boring sports business guy to be there, but Arsenal are the the team in Europe, the biggest one who relies solely, like the major income comes from match day, which is so we obviously, while we like to discuss only football, Europa income actually is
Yeah.
in this time. So
It is
that is
lesser than Champions League, but it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a boring answer to the boring question, which is that they've restructured the stadium's debt, which apparently will release funds now. So there you go.
But I'll quickly wrap now this fascinating segment with two things that DT said that were very interesting on Arsenal Fan TV recently. First thing he said was that it's actually food for thought, right? Arsenal Football Club are the most expensive team to follow as a fan, be it in terms of ticket pricing, in terms of in any sense. So he has a point when he says that if we as a fan are paying the most amount of money to watch football, right, this is not the end product that we expect because we are paying top dollar. The second thing, then, this is a bit cheeky. He would probably beg to differ with Ron on Europa League participation because the way he puts it, he says, forget Champions League. With this squad, we'll get swatted 5-1 by Germany's tier 2 clubs as well in the Europa League. So DT was almost saying that, you know what, no Europa, no Champions League. But I guess it was in one of his rants after last night's defeat. But anyway, guys, that was Rana Kapoor coming on our North London Derby segment and, well, an Arsenal segment on a broader scale. Thank you, Ron. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed having Ron on the Football Pundits, do hit the subscribe button. Give us a few likes. Show us some love. You can follow Rana Kapoor, of course, on his Twitter handle and Instagram down there. And we'll see you next time for what promises to be a very good end to this Premier League season. Till then, take care.